Whoa, legendary!
Welcome to another top 5 with Kris O Five, guys. Today we will be looking at the top 5 Hearthstone decks after the January nerfs. It is still too early to pinpoint what will be the next Shaman or the next Warrior in the new meta, but I will do my best to show you 5 prime suspects for those top spots. As always, I will give you an overview of each deck, their matchups, their Mulligan guide, and if it's worth to craft them. I know most of you are looking for just one exact deck that you can play with, but I do advise you to check out the rest of the decks as well, so you know how to play better against them when you face them. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, a like and a subscribe would be amazing. Now, let's get into it. Before we jump into the decks, I'd like to express my disappointment in the current Hearthstone state. These forced meta shifts are really frustrating for most players, and having nerfs so frequently and the inclusion of 35 new cards that will probably need a nerf soon after as well is not healthy for the game at all. I don't know what's going on with Blizzard's balance and testing team, but it does seem like we were the alpha testers for this set. No way in hell a competent player would let Galakrond Shaman slide into the new expansion with such a power level. If we have to be honest, it wasn't a good idea to craft the deck in the last 3 months, and it's at least one more month till it finally will be. When the meta finally settles, we will have a window of a month and a half to safely craft a deck. And after that, boom, year set rotation. I think this is a huge issue for budget players, and Blizzard should really address it if it wants to keep its player base. All in all, I don't think the nerfs did too much to most of the decks. Galakrond Shaman basically got nerfed to the ground with the second wave, and the rest of the nerfed decks basically got a slap on the wrist. At least these nerfs give players a window of 2 weeks to farm as much as they can from the nerfed cards, since all of them are from the Dragons expansion. All you have to do to maximize your chances of getting tons of dust here is to disenchant both Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and Ankar, if you own them, and open as much DoD packs as you can, in hopes of opening them again. It's free for you to do it, since you can recraft them for the exact same price after that, and you don't even know if you will need to craft them again, so it's easy dust. I opened 15 DoD packs last night, and I opened 3 Rights and 1 Scion, for a total of 520 dust. So do what you can to maximize your gains. That was quite the long intro, now let's jump into the decks. Using HS Replay's premium feature, we can see that at the top of the list, from rank 5 to legend, is the good old secret Highlander hunter. This deck seemed like an expensive investment more than half a year ago, but it has never strayed away further than tier 2 in the meta over all of those past months, so anyone who crafted it had a huge gain. True, it's a really expensive deck, but crafting Zephrys, Ziliax, Siamat and Alexstrasza seems like a pretty good idea anyway, and the hunter legendaries here are pretty good and with a bright future as well. The matchups look like this, nothing too polarized. Rogues are mostly favored for you, and right now, rogues are the most popular class on ladder, at least these last few days. Warriors are not your friends, but you won't see too many of those, since people stray away from nerfed classes, even though it barely got touched, and the deck is still top notch. Quest Priest is not too great for you, and Face Hunter can be a problem as well, but anything else goes, and it shouldn't be too hard for you to climb with it. For the Mulligan guide, you can follow the general rule. If it's above 3 mana, you're probably not keeping it. The top cards you can be hoping for in your Mulligan would be Dwarven Sharpshooter, Zephrys, Face Stalker, Secret Keeper and Rat Trap. Desert Spear and Snake Trap are also lovely. This deck has so many tools, so depending on the matchup you might want to opt for Explosive Trap, Hyena or Ursatron, but it really depends on the cards you already have in hand. Keeping Hyena and dumping everything else is never okay, so choose wisely. Is it worth crafting this deck? Well, if you don't have most of the cards, honestly, I think you're late to the party. It's a strong deck, but with a price tag like that, it doesn't really come as a surprise. On top of that, a lot of the good cards are rotating out in April, so that guarantees it's probably not gonna be a good idea for you to craft it now. Face Hunter would be a better idea for you, since it's super cheap and it's at the top of tier 2 as well. And Quest Hunter isn't too far from it too, for a bit more dust. If you wanna see me pilot some Quest Hunter, drop by the stream tonight and check out how we're doing. Next up is Token Druid. I did predict that Token Druid will rise in popularity even before we knew what the nerfs were, and currently it's sitting at the 2nd spot on tier 1, healthy as ever. The deck is really strong and it could be really high rolly too. It relies heavily on trend synergies, and when those click you get huge amounts of value and tempo. The only legendary here is Goru, but honestly you can even swap him out for a Ziliax, but make sure to include Snip Snap as well if you go for that route. Even just adding one more Power of the Wild or just including a swipe wouldn't feel too much worse instead of the Goru, and some pros are playing that instead of him anyway at high legend. As you can see, most of the matchups are in the green for you, but most rogues will have an edge over you. Haven't seen any Galakrond Zulocks and Pirates since the nerfs dropped, so overall you should be fine. For the Mulligan, you always want to curve out nicely, so getting some nice early drops that lead you for your turn 4 bomb turn with Garden Gnome or turn 5 with Force of Nature is pretty important. Try not to keep those if you don't have good cards to play before them though, cause that can backfire big time. Force of Nature is safer to keep than the Gnome, since it does activate synergies with Aeroponics, Defenders, and it can activate Gnomes as well, but make sure to have at least a 1 or a 2 drop before that. I'd say this one is worth the craft, since it's not that expensive and the archetype finds itself at the top of the meta more often than not. Some trend cards do rotate out in April, but aside from that, you should be good. On the first spot, we have the very affordable and very effective Mech Paladin I showed you in my last top 5 budget decks. It's very fast, it can put a lot of pressure on your opponent, and it's very high rolly. You can cheese out a lot of wins with it, and it's pretty decent against rogues as well, which are the most popular class on the ladder right now, so you have that going for you too. You have a lot of sticky dudes in here, so taking the board usually is not too hard for you, and magnetizing more dudes after that for more phase damage goes a long way. You might want to try the deck with Leroy too, since it serves as a nice finisher. Aside from Crystology, you are lacking card draw, but other than that, you should be good. Questra's Wrecked Priest isn't too cool, and Warlocks can be a pain as well. Galakrond Warrior fits that description too, but the other popular decks would be pretty good for you. As any paladin, you always want your Crystologies. Your early mechs are essential, and you can keep Skyclaw and Snip Snap too. Anything else would be a dump most of the time, unless you need the heal from Ziliax or the protection from an Oyo module against any phase decks. All in all, the deck is pretty solid, but in fact, most of the expensive cards are from Boomsday, which rotates out in April, so you won't have too much time to enjoy it. Witchwood and Rostakon's Rumble is also rotating out in April, in case you were wondering. The Boomsday rotation will ruin the mech archetype for Paladin, so that will make most of the other cards not too useful for you as well, but if you have most of the cards, it will probably be worth it for you. I did say Rogue is quite popular on the ladder right now, so let's talk about Highlander Galakrond Rogue. It's very expensive and it has a very high skill cap, but if you master it, you will be climbing tons of ranks. This version does cut the Death Rattle package and opts for the Spirit of the Shark. That also leaves you room for tech choices like Albatross if you have problems with other Highlander decks. For the matchups, Galakrond Zulak would be your worst. Anything else is above 45% win rate, so climbing shouldn't be an issue if you took the time to learn this deck. Mulligan-wise, you have a lot of options, but at the top of your list should be Pharaoh's Cat, Zephyrus and Backstab. It really comes down to what you're playing against, but as long as it's under 3 mana, it would probably be a good keep. If you're against a Face Hunter, keeping Ziliax would always be a good idea. Is it worth throwing almost 20k dust at this deck? Probably not if you're not throwing money at the screen or if you're not a veteran. Yeah, it's very solid and it would definitely be a fun challenge to master it, but it's just too expensive. If you really want to go for it, at least you don't have to worry about the April rotation, because it's gonna barely touch it. In that regard, it might turn out to be a good long-term investment, just like the Secret Highlander Hunter, so it's up to you if you want to grind that much dust. For the number 5 spot, I could have gone with a lot of decks, but it seems Aggro Overload Shaman is rising in power quite a lot in the last few days, so let's go with that. This is another great cheap deck with which you can climb easily, so if you're tight on dust and you want results, this might do the trick for you. It's very early game oriented and it doesn't run anything above 5 mana. The goal is simple, faces the place, but the execution is not so simple, even though some people might tell you otherwise. You have to know how to maximize your damage with this deck in order to have good results, so spending some time to get to know the deck should prove helpful. The matchups aren't really accurate, since this deck in this particular meta has a very low sample size, but the overall deck performance looks something like this. Warriors and Warlocks won't be too good for you, and Secret Highlander Hunter and Embiggen Druid will be hard as well, but anything else is supposed to be fine. For the Mulligan, you want your Thunderhead and your Spirit of the Frog, since those two are core for your win condition, so keeping them would be a good idea. Other than that, you want your Surging Tempest, Blazing Battle Mage, and maybe Lickem. Again, this is one good affordable deck that can take you high in the ranks, but it does consist of a lot of the rotating cards, so keep that in mind. It's strong and fast, but if you're not okay losing it to Wild in 3 months, then maybe look for something else. So these are the top 5 strongest decks on ladder right now. There are a lot of other good decks out there that have great results too, but like I always say, you can't really fit everything into a top 5. I hope you enjoyed this video guys, and if you did, a like and a subscribe would be really appreciated. I will probably make another top 5 decks in a couple of weeks, since the meta is just that wild, so stay close. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris O Five, and I'll see you in my next video.